One of the questions we get asked the very most is, do you have a therapist you can recommend for me? And while we wish that we knew of therapists in every single place, in every single part of the country, we don't. So what do we tell them instead, Mel?
We say check out BetterHelp because it's online, it's at a reasonable price, and you can be matched with a therapist within 24 hours. I've also used them and they have been great. And if you don't like your therapist, guess what? Click, and get a new one.
Absolutely. It's so hard when you have an in-person therapist, if you're not clicking with them, to cut them off and get a new one. So that's not an issue with BetterHelp. So we always tell people to try BetterHelp. And if you use our promo code, which is
trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month.
Go ahead and try it out. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. And you know what? I'm a big fan of doing therapy where you don't have to wear pants, but nobody knows about it.
Are you wearing pants right now, Mel?
I'll see you later. Bye. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Can you guys hear the dump truck outside my house?
I cannot hear it,
Okay,
Anita.
it's so loud.
Do you feel it though? Is it shaking your house?
Yes, I think they're just like scraping the road for no other purpose than just to scrape the road.
Are you sure it's not your kids?
Probably,
Okay.
maybe both. Well, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
We have a fun guest today, I think. So let's do this,
You
shall we, Mel?
think, Aubrey, now you got to be really fun because
I'm pretty fun, I think.
okay,
Okay.
Even I think so.
it is settled. Everyone, this is Aubrey, but we're gonna let her introduce her full name and where she's from.
All right. My name's Aubrey Sirman, and I feel like where am I from is a bit of a tricky question because I'm in academia, which means that I've kind of hopped all over the country for various jobs and whatnot. But I was born and raised in Florida, like Central Florida, in kind of a rural area. And then, I spent the rest of, I feel like my 20s hopping around to different places and yeah, ended up in Chicago, Illinois. I got my undergrad degree at Florida State University in Tallahassee, Florida. So I moved a little bit further north from where I was living. And then I got my master's at Auburn. So I lived in Alabama for a bit. In between those two, though, I did like some field jobs. So I lived on Cape Cod for a bit, doing some bird stuff there.
What?
Yeah.
Are you a professor of birds?
Are you an ornithologist?
I consider myself an ornithologist, but I'm actually, I would say, more of a teaching professor. So there's kind of two types of professors. There's like the ones who are tenure track who do like all the research and whatnot. And then there's like the other type, which is me, and I'm a teaching professor. So I really focus on education. Specifically, I work at Loyola University Chicago at a 2-year community college that's like embedded within it. So I teach introductory science courses, but I also educate them about birds because most of my research was all in birds.
This is super random. I have a nephew right now. He is going to Northwestern and he just finished a project wherein they made a treadmill for penguins.
What?
See, this is like
It's amazing.
this is all of your things too. I was like, who knew that they needed a treadmill? But that's was his project and they did it.
That's awesome. My guess is they were probably either looking at biomechanics or maybe thinking about like energy expenditure.
Well, I think it's because the penguins were fat.
Oh, because they were American penguins.
Sounds like energy expenditure, you know?
Okay.
So,
I think
but yeah,
they used
usually that's
them.
when treadmills get involved in studies. So it's either like how do they walk or move or like how much energy are they using?
Yeah, yeah.
A music major over here, and embarrassing to admit, but the way that I learned what the word ornithology means is because Charlie Parker, who is an alto sax player, his nickname was Bird, and he wrote a song called Ornithology.
Ah, that's fantastic. But yeah, and so wait, I'm not done yet. Right? So I got my master's in Alabama and then I got my PhD in North Dakota. So I've just like moved further north and then I ended up in Chicago. So that is my journey, I guess.
I have so many questions. We could go so many different ways. We could talk about birds forever. We could talk about North Dakota. I don't know about North Dakota, guys.
Okay, so this is my one. It's not really a soapbox, but I feel like everyone has the same reaction to North Dakota, which is like, oh my goodness, either why would you live there, or I hear it's just like a cold blizzard wasteland, right? Or they've seen the movie Fargo and they're like, oh yeah, like the movie. And all three of those things I feel like have misconceptions. So the Fargo movie was really shot in Duluth, Minnesota, which is 5 hours from Fargo. So it's a different landscape. And two, I think North Dakota would surprise people. It is cold a good chunk of the year. I cannot sugarcoat that one, but I will say it's the best summers I've ever had in my whole life. They're just beautiful. And, I like birds, so there's lots of birds in North Dakota. So I feel like it's a really good place if you like birds and if you like nature. There's like lots of that to see. So that's kind of exciting. Would I go back and then live there? I don't know. But like, it was kind of cool to spend like, a few years in a place that you probably would have never gone.
Yeah.
So, and their slogan, Fargo's slogan for the city is called North of Normal. And I feel like that totally fits the vibe of Fargo. So if you had to visit anywhere in North Dakota, I think Fargo might be your place. It also has Teddy Roosevelt National Park. So if you need another national park off your list, it's in the
There you
western
go.
half of the state.
Which bird do you identify with the most?
Everyone always asks you this once they think like that you like birds. They're either like, what's your favorite bird? Or like, in this case, what do you identify with? Which might be a better one, honestly, than what's your favorite bird, because I have a hard time choosing. I feel like right now I identify most with a pigeon. Um, and mostly because I don't know if you've ever seen like pigeon nests. They're terrible. They're
No.
like bare minimum. I wouldn't even say bare minimum. They're like below that. They're like a single twig and then they like lay an egg. It's really terrible. You should just Google some pictures. They're pretty
I'm
great.
gonna do that right now.
And I identify with a pigeon because pigeons are everywhere. They're super resilient. They live in our cities. They live in conditions that like we probably couldn't even imagine. They've stuck around despite being virtually abandoned by humans. Like we domesticated them and then we were like, be free. I feel like right now I identify like with the pigeon because like they're resilient and they're awesome. And you know what? Sometimes good enough is good enough, just like their crappy little nests that, somehow create new pigeons. It obviously they are successful. So
Yeah, I'm looking at
yeah.
these. They're not great. They're just a group of branches. They're not even touching each other.
Sometimes there's not even a nest. Sometimes they just lay an egg on the ground.
No, these are just like four branches and they're not even touching
Yeah.
each other. They're just sort of in close proximity to each other.
I think we can all learn a lot from a pigeon. That's what I'm
Pigeons
saying.
also live like everywhere, I feel like.
They
Like you
do.
always find pigeons and yeah. So, okay. I like this. Aubrey, tell us a little bit about your person.
Yeah, my person was Joe. And he was an engineer. And he was also, I think the way I like to describe him is probably one of the silliest and most generous people I've ever met. He would literally give you the shirt off of his back, even if he just met you. Like he didn't have to know you very long, and he was already like willing to do probably a lot of things that other people like would be like, "Whoa, we literally just met." Like,
You want my kidney? Here you go.
yeah,
You can have it.
exactly. And I feel like he did a good job of taking care of his friends too. He was super loyal, like in that way, and I think those are kind of his most admirable qualities. He was also super stubborn. Uh, and I think for good or for bad, right? Like sometimes being stubborn is super good and sometimes it gets you into trouble. But I think for the most part, though, it was probably a good thing for him. So he was also just generally like a pretty smart guy. I mean, obviously he was an engineer, but I think like the way he thought about things was really cool. And
What kind of engineer?
he was a mechanical
Okay,
engineer.
thank you.
Specifically, you'll like this one. I think this will be interesting. He was a cryogenic engineer,
What
if you break that down further. And the way he liked to describe it is honestly, he was kind of like a plumber, but for stuff that was really cold.
if Joe identified with bird traits, which bird is Joe?
Oh, that's a great
Is
question.
he the penguin on the treadmill?
I don't know. He was kind of a scrappy guy, so maybe he's like a house sparrow, which is what I did my dissertation work on. So, maybe he was a house sparrow just because he went through a lot of stuff like early in his childhood, and I feel like he I think another way to describe him too is he had like kind of the worst luck, I feel like, of anybody that I knew, like throughout his whole life, like from an early age. So, but he would still persist despite that. So he was pretty scrappy. And I feel like house sparrows are also in a similar vein of pigeons, like persisting in
Yeah,
maybe
because you're like,
habitats that aren't great.
get off of my porch or whatever. They just
Right.
come and they build their
Yeah.
nests. Where did you acquire Joe? Cape Cod, North Dakota, Florida.
I acquired him about halfway through my undergraduate degree at Florida
Okay.
State.
Okay.
We actually met doing like martial arts. We were both in a martial arts club in college. And yeah, I don't know, I feel like we just were really good friends.
You kicked him in the
And I
face,
feel
didn't you?
like I did. I think that's one thing I can say. It's like I have physically, I guess, fought him because we sparred in martial arts class. Um, so that has actually happened. But yeah, so that's where I acquired him. He did not necessarily follow me to Alabama or to North Dakota. We did long distance for a while. So, and it kind of worked out where we were never too far from each other, to be honest, because like Auburn is only about 3 hours from Florida State. So it's like we kind of did long distance, but it was kind of shorter distance.
Hey guys, just checking in and want to say if you are enjoying this podcast,
And you want to see it keep going, maybe it's helped you through your widowhood journey and you think that it might help others on their widowhood journey, you can support that cause by joining our Patreon.
some of the things that you get as a Patreon beneficiary are ad-free episodes, so you don't have to hear ads like this.
You also get exclusive content, and at a certain level, you might also get an exclusive t-shirt you can only get that place.
That is true. It's pretty cool. There are 4 different tiers available, so check it out. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
And as an extra bonus, very often you get your names read by one of my kids, and they will do a terrible job with the pronunciation. And that's like a bonus, I think.
I think it's kind of the best. I would much rather hear somebody butcher my name than say it correctly.
A child butcher it than an adult do it correctly. Yep. So go to patreon.com/WWDN to keep our podcast going and support the widowed cause.
Yes! Thanks, guys! Back to our regularly scheduled program.
Okay. So when did you meet him and how long were you together?
Probably 2009. I think that was like halfway through. That feels right. Um, we didn't date right away. We were definitely friends first, but ultimately we were together about 13 years. So
Good
a long
chunk.
time. Yeah, a good chunk of my 20s and into my 30s, I guess.
Did you guys end up getting married?
We did. So I moved to the Chicago area after my PhD. And I actually didn't have anything lined up. I was just like, I knew I didn't really want to go like the tenure track route. So like doing a postdoc was like not in my future because that's normally what you're supposed to do. And so I just moved to the Chicago area because he was working there as an engineer at one of Chicago's like 2 national labs that they have. He worked at Fermi Lab. And so I just moved to him, and then, I was going to be like, all right, we're going to figure it out. And so once I did that, I started job hunting. I ended up getting this position at Loyola. And then, we moved in together. We did the whole, I guess, thing. Uh, and then, yeah, during that time, he asked me to marry him. And we did get married in, I'm trying to think now, 2021 at the end of the year. So, we were together for 13 years and we were only married for the last like 8 months, of that
Oh,
time.
I was pulling a face
okay.
like that, kind of knowing that that's
Yeah,
where.
you're like the timeline is starting to get shorter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
yeah.
What happened?
Well, that's a fun story that also includes the pandemic.
Uh,
So basically, I moved there in like the middle of 2019 after I had defended, and uh, we were just like, we got an apartment, we were figuring out finances and life and whatever. Things were going, I guess, pretty well. But Joe had some like persistent pain. And this pain actually kind of started in 2017. So he kind of like, we thought he like messed up his shoulder, like starting in 2017. And it kind of was like one of those things that just like didn't get better. Like he went to PT, he went to the doctors, they did the whole thing. They kept pushing him around. And then like in 2019, things started getting worse. And none of this was like debilitating, but like, he definitely was not feeling his best for sure. And then going into 2020, so at this point, I have found a position, I was working, he was working, and then pandemic happens. So that was like early February. And I only remember this, I feel like because I was teaching, and then all of a sudden we had to like teach all online, like
ugh.
immediately. Like in two
Blech.
weeks, it was like a 2 week turnaround of like in person going to straight online, which was wild if you're an educator. I had to learn all of these new things in 2 weeks. And then like things got worse, right? Like his pain got worse, and then he started like not sleeping super well. He started having like fevers. He lost a lot of weight, which initially he was kind of stoked about because he had been trying to lose weight. Yeah, he was like, "Look at this. I've barely done anything." And I was like, "That's not great. If you've barely done anything." It was just after his birthday, like in April, like early May. So again, we're still dealing with the pandemic. Everyone's super paranoid. I know I was. And then like his limbs started swelling.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say they fell off. I'm so
No,
glad.
but like it was just as disconcerting, I feel like.
Okay.
I think, and I told him I was like, dude, this like is not normal. Like we need to go to the ER. Because like in my mind, like your limbs should not be fine one day and then swollen the next, right? Like that is a major red flag. And so yeah, we went to the ER. They couldn't, ironically, the ER was like, well, we don't really do limb swelling.
What? We don't
Right.
do limb swelling. Okay.
But I was trying to explain to them too that they were like normal, like recently. This wasn't like a chronic, slow swelling condition. The only reason that we convinced them to give him a CT was he said he had this cough that wouldn't, it had not gone away. And so they were like, okay, we'll like give you an X-ray. And then they were like, just kidding, we're going to give you a CT because I'm pretty sure they looked at the X-ray and they were like, oh no,
Uh-oh.
this is
Yeah.
bad. Um, and as soon as they switched to CT, I was like, this is bad. Downside of being a scientist, I feel like I kind of generally understand a lot of the medical lingo, especially in biology. So like once they did the CT, they found out he had a mass like in his chest, specifically in like this cavity. It's called the pleural space. And it was like compressing his aorta, which was making his limb swell. So that wasn't good news. And if you like look these things up, which of course I did as a scientist, I didn't want to wait the week that they were like waiting to refer us to like a new doctor. I looked all these things up and there was only like four options. And like basically I knew what it was before he did. And I was like, of the four options, one of them is definitely cancer. So like the other three are like, I don't know, really, really obscure. So it was definitely cancer. And then we had to go through that whole process of like getting him diagnosed and everything. And initially they thought it was a really common cancer. Um, and I say common in quotes because it's still not that common if you're like 30. They thought it was like lymphoma, which is a fairly common one.
That was gonna
People
be
have,
my guess.
yeah, it was not. It was, in the end, it was epithelioid hemangioendothelioma.
Mm-hmm. That
Okay.
sounds made up.
It does sound made up. The one that they initially diagnosed him with after they kind of figured it out was angiosarcoma. And basically EHE, which is that really long word I just said, is pretty much angiosarcoma, but it's technically different. So it has a different name. But it is a sarcoma. And then if anyone's heard of a sarcoma, then you know that they're like the rarest, one of the rarest cancers aside from like brain cancer. And his particular variant, EHE, is like, it's like 1% of 1%. Like nobody gets this. And so that's kind of what he ended up with. And the survival on that is also not great. It's like 2 to 5 years. So we kind of already knew what we were kind of working with. And I say we loosely. I feel like Joe throughout this whole thing was super optimistic. And that's just kind of like, I think just tells you who he was. Like for him, there was no plan B. He's like, I'm going to survive this. And like, that's what he needed to do, I think, to get through all of it. And I'm like more of the practical one where I was like, you see the 2 to 5 years. And I was like, okay, so it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle,
You're doing the statistics.
Yeah. He was relatively healthy. So I figured, it'd be on the middle end rather than the earlier end.
I have the most inappropriate question.
Go for it. I'm ready.
Did you ever discuss cryogenically freezing him to bring back at a later date if it became possible?
You know what? I feel like we never did because Joe also knew that was like not possible. Like
Okay.
As a cryogenic engineer, he was like, this is dumb.
Okay.
But I think he would have loved that joke actually,
Okay,
like in general.
Can I ask another inappropriate, sort of unrelated question?
Yeah, he would love it.
Is Walt Disney's head really cryogenically frozen?
As far as I know, the answer is no. But I don't know really.
But Joe
As someone
knows
who
now.
grew up in Florida, yeah, Joe would be the person to ask, and unfortunately, he had the gall to die.
Joe, please haunt wherever that is and let us know.
You know what? I've been asking him to haunt me, and he really hasn't shown up for that, which is a bit of a letdown, to be honest.
I feel you on that. Yeah. Knock some stuff over.
Yeah.
So
send me some lottery numbers.
And you can't haunt you through birds because you see birds all the time.
I know.
Find another way.
It's hard to tell. Is that Joe the bird or is it a different bird? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically pandemic and cancer, like all in the same year. So every time somebody's like, oh, 2020 was the worst year of my life. And I'm like, was it? Was
You're
it
like,
really?
Hold my beer. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Did you guys get married pre-cancer diagnosis or post-cancer diagnosis?
Post-cancer diagnosis, but
Okay.
he proposed in 2019 during Thanksgiving, which
Okay.
like I really appreciated in the sense that like one, I mean, I knew we were going to get married at this point because we had been together like, forever.
1,000 years, yeah.
So like that wasn't really the question. But like for any other folks who are like dealing with cancer, like it like overshadows everything you do, like every single thing. So since he proposed in 2019, I feel like that's the one thing that cancer like didn't like take like from us because it was like pre-cancer. Like he wasn't feeling his best, but we didn't know he had cancer. As far as we thought, everything was kind of normal. But yeah, so we got married in 2021 at the end of the year because obviously in 2020 we were dealing with a lot of things, and because of the limb swelling, he like literally couldn't walk. Like he was largely immobile. Once we got that under control though, like he had I would say a relatively good year in 2021. Like it's probably the best you could hope for, like while also doing like chemo and radiation and like, keeping yourself as normal as possible. So
Anita, I hear we have a store.
Oh, we sure do. We've actually had it for quite a while. It's called the Snarky Grief Shop, and it's where you will find all of our best grief merch. That is, yes, a little snarky. For instance, it's where you will find the official widow card that you can pull and use at your convenience.
You can put it in your wallet, and anytime you need to use it, pull it out, play the widow card.
Yeah, we have glow-in-the-dark stickers. We have shirts that say, "Be nice, my husband is dead." We also have the ones that are not quite as jarring, so that you can wear them out in public and not feel weird, but sometimes you need that shirt.
I wear my Be Nice, My Husband is Dead to bed because I'm a little scared to go in public with it, but you've worn it on airplanes before with your kids.
Yeah, every time we go to the airport, I wear that shirt because I'm just like, listen, I got to get all these kids through security. Just be nice to me. Thank you so much. And it's worked for the most part.
Some of the less snarky grief shirts are podcast shirts or Widow Wives Club. We also have Resilient AF, right, Anita? What else we got in there?
Yeah, which we're telling everybody who cares, like Mel's mom, that means American fork because she can't know what it really means, guys.
Yeah.
Stickers and mugs and notebooks and just cool stuff that you can use to express your snarky grief. You'll find it by going to our website, shop.widowwedonow.com. There's a lot of W's in there, so just make sure that you've counted them and there's the right number.
We will link to that in the show notes, and it's also in our app, which you can get from the App Store. Can people get it from our regular website too?
Yes, if you go to widowwedonow.com, there's a link for the shop in there too.
Great. If you'd like to show your snark or have something a little more subtle, go ahead and check that out. Again, that's
shop.widowwedonow.com. Okay, so where did he make it in the 2 to 5 year range? And did he ever accept that it was going to happen?
No.
Okay.
Well, okay. So I feel like maybe he did like personally, like on the inside, and he just never told me. But I do feel like, he would never really voice it. Because I think he just like couldn't. I don't think he could do it. Like I think like probably did he need to talk to a therapist about this? Yes. I encouraged him to do that, but you know how that goes. So I think like he couldn't do that and still continue to like put up with all the crap that like cancer makes you put up with. I think he was starting to realize towards the end that like this wasn't going to be like he wasn't ever going to be normal again, quote unquote, like he wasn't going to go back to like his pre-cancer self. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of like, walking with someone through like their cancer journey, is like watching them lose more and more of themselves, which I think is like, it was literally, I think, the hardest part of this whole thing, which sounds crazy because like at the end he died. Um, and I feel like the death was not the hardest part. Like it was all of that stuff leading up for it. And then as for how long he lived, it was almost exactly in the middle. It was like 2.5 years.
Way to go, Joe. Way to be average.
Yep. But like honestly, I definitely think he had cancer in 2017. We just like didn't know.
Yeah.
And nothing showed up on scans or anything, but it's like it was really curious that the pain that he had was like exactly where the tumor was. And
Right.
this particular cancer that he was diagnosed with, EHE, is really known for pain. Yeah, super, super great. But like that's one of its like markers. It's not necessarily super silent, right? Like sometimes it can be, but sometimes it is associated with pain. And it was like in the same place. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm pretty sure he had it since like 2017-ish.
So you just said that the most painful part was not him dying, but was him losing himself. Do you think that it's the most painful part wasn't his death because you'd already watched him lose all of that? And so it's like, he doesn't want to be like this, and I don't want him to be like this. And it's like, we already lost. Like, it's just so hard to watch them just fall apart and wither away and be so sick.
I agree. That's totally what it was. Like, I mean, every treatment that we did, I mean, cancer doesn't come without side effects, right? So like every single treatment that he had, like initially we were hoping just to do surgery. That would have been best case scenario. And as soon as he didn't get surgery, I was like, okay, this is not going to go well. Because that's like the gold standard a lot of times of cancer treatment. But even if he had had that surgery, he was never going to be able to be as active as he was prior to this. He was a super active human. He like went to the gym. He played this crazy sport called hurling. which we could talk more about. That's a
Wait,
good segue.
what is
Yeah.
it?
No, I want you to guess what it is. Let's see if we can figure it.
Hurling, I got two answers. One is how far can you throw up on
Uh-huh.
demand?
It's usually the first response that people have.
The other is throwing something heavy like a rock.
Mm,
A
The
log.
the end.
neither are close.
Is it like high a lie?
What is
It's
that?
that's actually weirdly closer
Okay.
than throwing a log.
Okay.
Um, it is the national sport of Ireland.
What?
Yep. It's probably the coolest sport you've never heard of.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if field hockey and lacrosse got kind of mixed together.
Okay.
That would be hurling. It's very cool. I still play the sport because he got me into it. I play the women's version, which is called camogie.
No. These
Yep.
people are just making this stuff up.
Yeah, that doesn't sound also like it's Irishly derived, the women's
Ir-
version.
Irishly derived.
Yes. Is it?
It is.
Is there a goal involved?
There is a goal
Okay.
Is it hitting people? Hitting people with the stick.
sometimes, but not on purpose.
Okay.
Again, sometimes, but
I'm Googling this
not
too.
generally on purpose. It's very cool. And actually, at the time of this recording, the All Ireland like finals were like last week and this week. So it's like it's a big thing right now. It is an amateur sport, and there's actually chapters all over the country. So it's like an amateur sport that you can go to like nationals for. So
Okay, Anita, Google it and see if it's in Utah.
Well, oh.
yeah.
I
So
just
I'm signing
what you're
you
looking
up.
for the United States is the USGAA, the
US
US
GA.
Gaelic
yeah.
Athletic Association are the people that run it. So
Okay, I feel like Harry Potter Quidditch is based on this because it's a Gaelic sport played with a wooden stick called a hurley and
yep.
a ball called a sleatar. That's not how you say it.
It's
Slider.
a slitter.
Oh, schlitter. The schlitter.
The
Yeah.
schlitter. Yep. It looks like when you try to pronounce it, that's what it looks like. Sleotar, but it's schlitter.
Schlitter's full, Anita. Schlitter's full.
And then there's the quaffle and the other I can't remember the other things in Harry Potter. Okay, what was it? The US?
I don't know. I can't remember if Utah has a team. Colorado definitely does, and so does Washington. There's a bunch out in California as well.
How did we never know about this? I feel like I should know things.
I feel like you should join.
Okay. I'll try it.
I
I'll try
mean, you should,
anything.
okay, as someone who plays Camogie, I mean, I'm always pitching people to join. It's so cool. It's so fun.
I want to learn to
Um,
play hockey right now. That's my like, I want to try that
but if you
out.
watch those videos, you'll see that it's like super athletic. Like you have to be like ready to go, like in shape, and
Hmm.
that's kind of how
I'm
Joe
ready to go.
was
Okay.
Yeah, Anita is
like
totally
prior to
ready.
cancer.
So he wasn't going
So,
back to the Hurley after he was done being
no.
cancer filled. Yeah.
Yeah, so like he was trying to wrestle, I think, with like all of that. So every time there was a new treatment, like chemo comes with side effects, and then he did
Mhm.
this chemo pill for a while, which was super great. I feel like this is like where cancer treatment is going, which I think is it. The side effects for that one were way better than like standard chemo.
Hmm.
So I guess
Yeah.
I'm
I feel
weirdly
like
in favor of it.
I feel like we're at the edge of making some really great cancer discoveries. Now,
Yeah.
whether we fall back from the edge or we actually go over the edge, that's a topic for another time. But I
Yeah,
feel like we're
agreed.
like on the cusp of some great things and it's like, come on,
Yeah,
we can do
and
this, guys.
the fact that he was able to take a pill for like most of 2021 was super great because it allowed us to like do a little bit of traveling. We took like a train trip around the US. We actually went to Utah. We went to Salt Lake City
On
to
the
go
train.
see, yeah, on the train to go see well, actually, we were going to go on the train, but there was like mudslides or something.
Um,
So we actually ended up flying there
okay.
to complete what our plan was. Um, But we did go to the Great Salt Lake and, we just like did a bunch of stuff and that was really cool. And we wouldn't have been able to do it without this like chemo pill because you have to go in for treatment like every week. And so this is like something we were able to do.
Were you impressed with the birds of the Great Salt Lake?
I
Or were they
was.
they pretty just average?
No, they were pretty solid. I really
Okay.
enjoyed myself. Great birding, would recommend. Uh, except for the part where it's drying up. But
Y-
like
And it's going to
that's a whole
poison
nother
us
issue.
all with arsenic powder. So
I
it's
teach
fine.
environmental science and we talk about the Great Salt Lake as
Okay.
an example
As a
of never
problem.
anything good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us, when did Joe finally pass away? Finally. That makes it sound like, come on, get it
I
over with.
mean,
Come
but
on, let's get.
honestly though, I think this is part of it. Like by the time we got to that point, like I was super burnt out as a caregiver. And, I feel like that's something we don't talk about too much. Like in general, how much like caregiving like burns you out. And it makes you think things that are crazy. Like at that time, I literally remember thinking, oh, I just want this to be over.
Hmm.
And like you have when something is over, like especially with cancer, that only meant one thing.
Right.
And it was like I also didn't want Joe to die. I wasn't like I want him to die, but I also like didn't want to continue like what I was doing
It's
because it was
suffering for
just yeah.
everyone in different ways.
Yeah, and he was suffering, I was suffering, everyone was suffering. But he passed away September 1st, 2022. So he made it super easy to remember right before the Labor Day holiday. And I'm pretty convinced he actually did that purposely, just so I would have some time to like pull myself together. I didn't really have kind of the luxury of not working, because it was either not get a paycheck and be on like FMLA or have a paycheck. And, we had a house and everything, and I was like, I got to pay some bills. So it was weirdly nice to have kind of an extended, I guess, holiday to like not have to think, you know.
Yeah.
And I was able to get like, like almost like a week kind of off, if that makes sense. Like people were covering my classes. So that was like really helpful. So I did get more than just like 3 days or whatever. And they were super helpful, but it was basically like they kind of told me, if it's more than 2 weeks, then they have to do FMLA. And I
Mm.
was like, I will come back to work.
So, how was that? Like, you just explained that the suffering leading up to the death was really excruciating for everybody.
hmm
So, what were the first couple weeks like for you after he was gone? Was it what you thought it might be?
Well, yes and no. I feel like I tell people this too, that like the day he died was not the worst day of my life. I know like some folks who might have experienced like an unexpected death, like that day was maybe really terrible, but I feel like for Joe, all of his friends were there, and that was really beautiful. Like, I don't know. I look back on that day and it's not the worst day. I'm
Mm.
like, this is really kind of lovely. The day after, I, well, that night I had like the best sleep of my life. I'm like not even kidding. Just
That's
because I think I
wild.
was like, I know, I was just like relieved though, in a way that like I knew I wouldn't have to wake up and care give. And I also knew like I wouldn't have to worry about him at night. So like leading up to his death, like he was definitely declining and getting worse. And so like I was a super light sleeper. And at that point we were kind of in two separate rooms because he needed like way more stuff, I feel like, in the bed to be comfortable.
Hmm.
And so I was always like hyper aware of like how he was feeling or if he could breathe or, just things like that. And I think knowing that I didn't have to do that anymore was like my body was just able to be like, you can
Yeah.
sleep now, you know? So that's what I'm saying. Like I didn't have trouble falling asleep that first night. And in fact, that first week, I feel like all I did was sleep. It was
Mm.
just like catch up, is kind of what it felt like. Um,
Yeah.
I was super sad, of course, but like I do feel like a lot of it was just a lot of relief. And people feel bad about that too sometimes.
Do you feel bad about it?
No, I never
Good.
did. I was just
Okay.
like, but I do know that like within the cancer community, that like relief,
Hmm.
I think a lot of people feel guilt towards it. So,
Yeah. It makes sense a little bit about just being able to sleep because like death is final, right? And so before it was always the what if, gotta check, gotta be here. And it's like I can't do anything now, so just gonna sleep.
yeah. that's kind of what it was like, I think, in those first couple of weeks. And then I did have to go back to work. And um, according to my therapist, I'm like a high functioning griever, you know?
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
honestly, I think it's because like all of that cancer stuff, like you're grieving the whole time. Like I just had a lot of practice. I don't even think it was like a high functioning thing. It's just like I literally had been practicing the grieving since like 2020. I
And
feel like,
faking it, you know.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
getting through work. And I still worked. So it's just like, I was just really good at doing the everyday things because I had been practicing it for so long.
Okay. But did you ever, or were
hmm
you tempted ever to go to class and turn on a DVD of Star Wars?
Um, was I ever? That's a good question.
It could be a
I mean,
different
sure.
movie. I mean, I don't know.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. College
Secret
is a
Life
little
of
different,
Penguins.
right? Like I didn't have to teach every day. I only had like 2 days a week that I really had to be like present for. So I think that was actually really helpful. I think if I had like a K through 12 teaching job where you have to like be
Hmm.
there every day
And tie their shoes.
and like do all this other stuff, I think that would have been a lot harder. But because it's college, like I did the bare minimum. And I told my dean that that was what I was going to do, and she was cool with it. I was like, I will show up, I will teach the lesson that I need to teach, and then I'm going to peace out. Like I'm going to leave. And that's what I did. Like I didn't go to any meeting that I didn't really need to go to or that wasn't part of my exact job description, because I also have like advisees. So I did have to answer their emails. But like, I didn't do anything extra. I didn't come to like our faculty meetings for the rest of the year. I like didn't, I just did the bare minimum. And I think that's kind of what got me through.
You're a high functioning griever. What did the first year look like for you?
Well, I, in a high functioning way, did some crazy stuff, I think, in a good way.
I was gonna rob some
So,
banks.
yeah, I decided probably like October of 2022. So, like a month in, after Joe had passed away, I had a friend who had invited me to Arizona, in October. And this was actually before he had died. And Joe had actually encouraged me to go. He was like, you know what, you should just go. Like, you need a break. Like, this is your break. And we had worked out this whole thing where my parents were going to come up and like, help with the caregiving while I like had a little break. Instead of canceling those plans, I actually just went to Arizona anyway after he had died. So this is like, I don't know, 3.5 weeks later. And I hung out with my friend and we did a lot of birding. And then I just like decided that that's what I was going to do the next year. That's how I was going to get through 2023 was I was going to bird the entire year every single day. So I know, and still maintain a job. So I decided I was going to do what's called a big year. And that is where you try to see as many birds that you can see in a single year. And how you do your big year is up to you. Some people are more serious than others. I needed to maintain a job, so I could not, you know, go too crazy, because I still wanted to get paid. Yeah, it varies widely. So there are some people who like literally go to every single place within like the North American continent, I guess technically. People will like try to see as many US birds as they can possibly see. I didn't really restrict mine to US. I was just like, I'm going to see as many birds as I can see, and we'll kind of work out trips from there. So,
One keeps a journal. And this is so funny because you've
mhm.
introduced us to two concepts. The big year, never heard of that as a thing to do, and the Hurley. So,
I know you have so
yeah.
many
Have
new
you,
things.
this is so random. Have you watched the show The Residents on Netflix?
Everybody asks me that, and the
Okay,
answer is
yeah.
yes.
Okay, good. It's
It's
very
like that
random.
kind of level though, of like my enthusiasm for birds is very similar, I feel
Okay.
like. So if you've seen that show, then you know. I believe Ken Kaufman was like one of the consultants they brought on for that show for the bird stuff, and he's a big bird guy. He's like big in our birding world. So he does like manuals.
So where did you go to
Mhm.
find the birds?
Yeah, so after that Arizona trip, I also have a friend from grad school who is from Nepal. And so I went to Nepal in December and we did a bunch of trekking, and that carried over into the new year. So technically, my first trip of my big year was in Nepal, and I started off on January 1st with 101 birds just in like a single day. So
Holy
that's how many
cow.
birds there are.
think I can only name like 5 birds total.
Yeah.
Did you recognize the birds without a manual or a book? Like, are you that good at identifying them?
No. I mean, within the US, the answer is generally. I'm actually pretty good at it at this point because I've been birding since like 2000 and well, 2009, 2010. So part of also why I was like, I'm going to do birding is that was like one of the few things that I feel like Joe and I were different on. Like
Oh,
birding was always kind of like my thing. It was never his thing. When I was thinking about like building this new version of myself without him, since we had been together for so long, this was like a thing that I knew was always me and it was only me. We weren't kind of enmeshed in that like area of our life. Um, so I was like getting back to, I guess, my roots in quotes.
some birds have ridiculous names though. Like I feel like somebody is punking the bird watching community.
Yeah. A bunch of dudes are naming them really weird names.
Sounds like lots of things in the medical community too. Like, what is it? The pouch of somebody. It's like
Oh, like that's named after somebody.
behind the
Yeah.
uterus. The pouch of a man's name. Yeah. Um, so where did you go after Nepal? Take us through your big year.
So I did Nepal. So that was like January's trip. And then also I think I went in January as well. I went to this place called Zaxim Bog,
Of course.
which is in Minnesota, actually outside of Duluth. And it's known for having these really cool owls called great gray owls and northern hawk owls. So if you're wondering what kind of birding gets done in the winter, it's really just owls because you can see them really easily in the trees because they have no leaves. So I went up to the bog to try to find some of those species that are only found in that like area. Then I also went to Fargo to also visit people that I knew there and do some more birding. Um, so in Fargo, let's see, I got some more owl species. That's kind of what I was going for. Let's see, and then March. March would have been my spring break. So I went down to Florida to get all the Florida birds, and that's where my family's from. So I kind of stayed with my family. I also went with a couple of really good friends who I'm going to be visiting in a couple weeks. So I'm pretty excited about that. Um, so that was March. Let's see, April. What did I do in April? Great question. Oh, I think I ended up not doing an April trip because March was really kind of crazy, and April is like that time of the year when you're finishing stuff up for the semester. So it was like kind of a really busy month. So I stuck to my local birds here in April. And then May, I went to the biggest week in American birding, which occurs in Ohio, uh,
Yes.
specifically Toledo
Yep.
area. So I did that so I could get all of my good warblers in. So I did that in May. And then I also flew out to Washington to visit my friend in the Pacific Northwest. So I got a bunch of Western birds also in May. And let's see, June and July were kind of low on the bird trips, mostly because I'm teaching again in June and July. So I was stuck to more local birds, trying to like stack that up. And then in August, I went to Ireland to also visit a friend who also unfortunately was sick. So I visited her as well, and that was really lovely. And I got some Irish birds, so that was pretty great. Where are we at? We're in August. Okay, and then September. Let's see, what did I do in September? Again, not too many things because the school year's starting again. So I had to wait until my October break, and by then, technically, I was like kind of wrapping up a lot of like my big year stuff. So I did like a crane festival that happens in Baraboo, Wisconsin.
Wait, I know where Baraboo is. I just got back two
It's
days ago from Madison, and you know what else is there? This is important. Sorry, it's not birding related.
I think I probably know though. I go to Madison a lot.
The
We'll see.
International Clown Museum.
Yes.
Is that what it's called? International Clown. I was so mad. I did.
Midwest is wild, you
The
It
Midwest
is.
is the
There's also
best.
like a mustard museum too, that's
Oh,
like outside of Madison.
I freaking love the Midwest. They have the best weird things like that. Have you been to the Clown Museum? I know you
I have
were
to. I
I
feel
birding.
have
like
not been to the clown museum, but I did know that it existed.
It's so
So I
great.
feel pretty good about
I
that.
need to just make sure that's the name of it in case I said it wrong. Baraboo. Baraboo, Wisconsin. Wait, it's
oh
called
man.
the International Clown Hall of Fame. And, Anita, this is for you because I'm sending you here someday. Research Center. Thanks,
And
that's
while
all.
you're at it, go to the Crane Festival in
And
Baraboo,
the
Wisconsin,
mustard
and the Mustard
museum.
Museum.
The
All of
Crane
them.
Festival sounds really awesome.
Yeah, cranes are cool.
They're pretty big, right? Cranes?
Yes. Yeah, they also have the International Crane Foundation is there. And so they also have some captive cranes that can't be released. So you can like walk around and see them. It's pretty cool. I enjoyed it. It was a really nice festival. Um, oh yeah, I also did a couple of like smaller trips. Like I went to Michigan that year to go see the Kirtland's Warbler, which is in the really northernmost part of Michigan. So went all the way to Roscommon, Michigan to do
Just
that.
for them warblers.
They have a festival as well, so I went during the festival. I went to Denver for my sports nationals, but it was also just really convenient to do birding. So I went out west essentially to do that. And then let's see, I ended basically the year back in Florida, visiting my family again. And then I was trying to kind of clean up any of the birds that I missed. So I convinced them all basically to go to the Keys for Christmas instead of like doing Christmas in Central Florida. That way I could get extra birds. And it kind of worked. So we went to the Keys for Christmas.
Does one get like points for the birds? I
Or
mean,
merit badges.
yeah,
I would want a merit badge of every bird.
So there is this app, it's called eBird, and I like track how many birds I've seen. It's really hard to see, but
yeah.
anyway,
It's like the original Pokemon Go.
it is. It's
Yeah.
like if you liked Pokemon as a child, this is probably the hobby for you because it's just Pokemon in real life.
How many different varieties of birds total did you see in that big year?
So in that year, I pulled it up because I knew I was going to get this
Yeah, of
question. I was
course.
ready. I saw 550 species, which I consider was pretty
That
good.
seems like a lot.
Not the biggest year compared to like other folks. Like I missed a lot of birds technically, but it was a pretty solid year, so I was pretty happy with that. It's the most birds I've ever seen in a year.
I'd like to say you were grieving, you were holding down a job, and you saw over 500 birds. That's amazing.
Yeah. I also did this thing where I submitted an eBird list every single day. So even if I saw like a pigeon, I submitted a bird list for it. So I did that for 365 days. That was like part of my like,
So
I don't know,
fascinating.
Wow.
like grieving, I guess.
Do you have plans to go other places now that your big year is over? And if so, where are those places for birding?
Yeah. So this, I guess the big year was in 2023 now because I did it like right after Joe had died. And then 2024, ironically, I didn't go to a ton of places. I just kind of did normal birding. I did have like some bigger plans to like go to Peru, but then there was issues with my friend trying to get a visa. He's not from the US, so it was like definitely a bit of a crazier process for him. But this year, I actually have been to a lot of different places. I ended up in Puerto Rico for a conference. So that was pretty great. And I did some birding while I was there. And then in May, I went to Tanzania in Africa to see a bunch of birds. Um, and I'm about to go visit some friends in Barcelona. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Um, I once saw a toucan in the wild. That's like the only
Oh, I haven't
thing
seen
to
one yet.
fame.
I would love to see one. It's on
Yeah,
my list.
it was in Brazil.
I was going to say, are they in Brazil?
Yeah. And then a
That
parrot
sounds like
bit
it.
me in Brazil
Oh,
too. So that was weird.
That's
And
unfortunate.
you also had was it a parrot experience in New Zealand and it ate something out of your mouth, remember?
Oh,
What was that?
I don't
Oh,
know what kind of bird it was, but we were in New Zealand and we were doing this tour, and they
Hmm.
had this smart little bird that followed the tour guides. It figured out a small to follow them, and so they started feeding the bird. They got special permission to feed this bird little mealworms, and so everybody got a turn to feed it out of their hand, and then they said, "Who wants to let it eat the worm off of their tongue?" And I was like, "I'll do that."
of course it was
So
you.
I stuck the worm on my tongue and the
Oh
bird
no.
came and ate it off my tongue. And then as soon as I did it, I was really embarrassed. And I was like, didn't we just go through like a pandemic? Because like,
Yeah.
I was like, maybe that was dumb. And maybe I've just started the next pandemic because a bird
Bird
got a
You're
mealworms.
gonna be
worm off of
patient
my.
zero.
Yes, exactly. But apparently we're still fine unless the like
Well,
incubation time
you
is
never
several
know.
years. So
Anita, I filmed that
yeah.
so in slow-mo so we could
I never shared
Aubrey.
it because I was so like, I shouldn't have done
Amazing.
I
that.
was so cool.
No,
Okay, well, it's okay. Nobody has died yet.
no,
You
no.
could
But I was
show
Yeah,
to
I think you're
Aubrey.
probably fine as
yeah.
a biologist who generally understands, I guess, incubation times. It's probably okay
Yeah.
now.
Would you have done that if somebody asked you to do that, or would you have said, that's a bad idea?
I would actually be more concerned about the bird like biting my lip or like a tongue, after it ate the food. So I probably wouldn't.
Well, it just like came, and actually, if you look at it in slow motion, it didn't even eat the worm, Mel. It like knocked it off my tongue and it like scratched my tongue a little bit. That's why I was like,
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have done that just for that, actually. So,
that's my bird experience.
Oh man.
Oh, we have eagles that nest here. They come down. There's like a
Mhm.
bay right below our house. So in February, all the bald eagles come and the
oh,
golden
that's nice.
eagles.
That's
Yeah.
great. I love all bird stories. So,
We have a bird like preserve right west of my house, and they
Yeah.
have blue herons there. And then I don't know what else. What else
Seagulls
birds?
always.
Yeah.
probably magpies too,
Oh
because you're
man.
out
Oh,
west.
do you know
So,
about the magpies of Australia, though? They like try to attack you. They're evil. They're murder
yeah,
birds.
Yeah, they are murder
Mhm.
birds.
Yeah.
crows and corvids are super smart. So, they're
I'm
probably,
trying to make friends with crows.
that's also my dream as well. I would really love for
Yes.
them to be friends with me.
Do you feel like having a connection with nature and just being, because you have to be like quiet and
Hmm.
still, and that kind of like can be a good thing or a bad thing because it's hard to hide from yourself when you're being quiet and you're being still. Do you feel like that was like a bonus?
Yeah, I do totally think it was helpful, especially like while grieving. Um, because you're birding, you have to spend a lot of time, right? Like out in the woods. This isn't like I don't want to say it's like a hobby that takes just a few minutes. It's like, I'll go on a couple hour bird walks just to see what you can see, especially if you want some of the species that are a little bit rarer. You have
Hmm.
to, you have to be out there longer. So it does like leave you with a lot of time to like reflect and think and work through feelings. So I'm not gonna lie, there were several bird walks where I would cry on them, like because I was still grieving and it wasn't just always me really focused on the birds. But I do think like having that goal was super helpful to get me like out of bed every day because I was like, nope, I got to do my eBird list. It didn't have to be fancy either, so I didn't say like, oh, I had to go on a mile walk. Like I never did any of that. Like if it was just me looking at my bird feeder that's outside my house, like I have lots of feeder lists of me just being like, yep, there's seven more house sparrows, but I did like the thing that I wanted to do that day, which was submit a list. Yeah, so it's just like meditative.
It's such an unusual idea too. I don't feel like it's on the top 10 lists of people when they're like, what to do in grief. But I feel like people should do it. What do you suggest if people want to get into bird watching? Like how does one start?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to get started, and it's so much easier now, I feel like such an old lady sometimes when I'm like, back in my day, like we used to have to buy manuals. So you could certainly buy like a bird manual. If you want to do that route and you like having books, I recommend like the Sibley version. It's a type of bird manual. It's called a Sibley. There's one for like the entire US. So if you like having the paper and you like, going through a book, I would recommend that. But if you're like, that's too much work, there is a free app. It's called Merlin.
I'm gonna
Um,
download it.
yeah, it's free. It's great. It also, if you hear a bird call, it'll identify the bird for you now.
What?
Yeah, it's super cool. So if you hear a bunch of birds chirping, it'll be like, these are these birds or whatever. So I
Wait,
recommend that.
Aubrey,
And yeah,
can you identify this? This is my bird call. Ready?
I'm ready.
What is it? I've practiced it.
Um,
This
well,
is so stressful.
that one's a little tough. I would say
It's probably
my
not
first
accurate.
instinct, my first instinct is it's probably a crow. But like maybe a blue jay mimicking a crow or
It's a
something.
peacock. I need to practice more.
Oh,
I'll do
oh,
better.
that one's really intense, I would
When
say.
I heard myself do it, though, it sounded like a crow. So you can have that for free.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
sorry
You
to
should
agree too.
see if Merlin identifies it as the bird.
Yeah, I downloaded it because like I'm in the I'm like in nature all the time, and I have
Yeah.
bird interactions all the time, and sometimes I'm like, what was that bird?
Yeah,
And
and now you can even upload a picture. So,
okay,
like, even if you don't hear it call, but you were able to get a quick picture, it does a pretty good job of like helping you identify them. So that, and then I log all of my data, like all of my lists on eBird, which
okay,
is the same people as
I probably
Merlin.
won't do that. That sounds like too
But
much
yeah,
effort.
it's kind of nice though. You can keep like a little life list, I like on Merlin, and it does link to the eBird list. So if you do like get into the listing, it does keep track of it for you, which is really nice.
That's
So
cool.
yeah,
Well, Aubrey, what's coming up for you next, like in your widow world?
I had mentioned like earlier, this is like almost year 3. We're coming up on the 3rd year. And so at this point, I feel like a lot of just general reflection, and I'm still kind of figuring out what I'm going to do in the future. But a lot of the stuff that I felt like was kind of like weighing me down in the first and second year, that one has kind of like disappeared a little bit. And I'm not as sad as I used to be. And like that's really hopeful for me. I feel very hopeful about it. Um, and I'm really enjoying just like traveling around and seeing some birds and, making new connections with new people. And I feel like there was a time, especially early on, where I couldn't imagine like this version of my life, like at all, right? Like, I mean, we all, I feel like went through that first little bit where you're just like, you just want everything to be back the way that it was, right? Or you just like couldn't imagine this version of yourself in the future. And I feel like now I'm past that, like I'm not necessarily like wishing to go back to the way things were all of the time. It's like I'm really hopeful about the future and like who I am now. And like I'm carving out kind of a new path that doesn't feel like a plan B, like it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like plan A was the best plan and now I'm stuck with plan B. And now it feels like they're actually kind of equal plans. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes. And I love that description too. That's really
Yeah,
fantastic.
because I think like at first though, like that first year, I felt like I was living like a version of a life that I didn't choose, that I didn't like, that was definitely less than the
Right.
previous one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And now I really don't feel that way, which like I think is really hopeful. So that's
Um,
where I'm at.
Aubrey, thank you so much for sharing your unique style of grief because I think it's really going to be helpful. I have a question though. Is there enough room in your heart for cheese with your love
Absolutely.
of birds? Okay, so do you have a favorite cheese?
I would say my favorite cheese is probably goat cheese. I love putting that on like everything. I feel like, if there's a pizza, I want goat cheese on it.
Mm,
If there's a frittata, I want goat cheese in it. So it's probably goat cheese.
okay, I think that's acceptable. What do you think, Mel?
Hmm.
Yes, I accept this answer.
Okay,
Correct.
so Mel is going to work on her peacock call
Yeah,
and
that was
then we
bad.
will reconvene in 12 to 16 months, and we'll see how she's doing on
I
that.
can't wait to see what your lists are like. You know, we all have a life list.
Yeah.
So we want to know how many birds that you've seen.
Yeah.
I love that.
Hopefully we can check back in with you and you can let everybody know if you've seen 5,000 birds by then or what
I'm only
kinds.
at 1,006. So I have like,
Only.
Lifetime?
you know, yes, that's
Okay.
my
Okay.
lifetime
Okay.
list. So that's only like 10% basically.
Oh,
Oh my
you got
goodness.
this. I
Okay.
believe in you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope everybody has enjoyed listening to you as well. If you'd like to check out our Patreon, it helps keep the podcast going. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you would like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
And always, we like a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Aubrey.
And we are just two young widows and one, can I say you're a phoenix, even though it's a fake bird? Is it legal?
I think so.
Okay, and
Phoenix pigeon.
a phoenix pigeon, and we're all just trying to figure out widow.
Wee.
Do.
Now.
Mel,
Yeah,
we have a major announcement to make.
go for it.
Did you know that right now all plans on Mint Mobile are what?
$15 a month.
Okay, that's truly ridiculous. Do you know how much regular cell phones are?
Yep.
$1 bazillion a month. 15 is less than that.
New customers get 3 months of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month if you sign up right now. And guess what? I use it. I love it. I've used it all over the country, all over the world, and it's great. And if you're wondering about phones, they have those available as well, or you can just port your own number and your current phone over to Mint Mobile. They make it so easy.
So if people are interested in trying out Mint Mobile, how can they go about doing that?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. And you know, it's interesting. When my dad died, we actually put his phone on a Mint Mobile plan because it kept his number going, but it was $15 a month. So there you go. And there's different storage plans, but you might as well just get the unlimited because it's $15 a month.
Absolutely. All right, go try it today.
That's trymintmobile.com/WWDN.